Good morning and welcome, dear friends. Welcome to our spiritual home, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs. My name is Mark Linker, and I'm pleased to serve as the worship associate today. For the benefit of those with a hearing impairment, we ask that anyone speaking today speak clearly and project. Try to talk to the people in the last row. We want to acknowledge that here at the church we are standing on the lands of the Tocobaga and Seminole peoples. We offer a warm welcome to the guests that are with us here today. We would like to get to know you better and hope that you will join us following the service for our coffee hour and refreshments. And we have these red cups that if you're a guest, please, if you use it, then you're inviting us to come and talk to you. Okay? Our mission states, we are a liberal faith community for all ages, promoting spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts. Lay-led services are a time-honored tradition in our heritage. Here at UU-CTS, we value shared ministry. Today we will hear from Steve Bolton and Mark Hopkins in our service titled Buddhism, a Practical Spirituality. A while back, Steve and Mark learned that they have something in common. They both share a deep appreciation for both Buddhism and Unitarian Universalism, UUism. This connection has led them to embrace this blended spirituality as an ongoing conversation, some of which they will share with us today. Our music today is provided by our talented music director, Bonnie Whitehurst, and our much appreciated choir. Thank you for what you add to our service.
Our first hymn is number 184 in the Gray Book, 184, Be ye lamps unto yourselves. While you are finding it, I will play through it, and you may stand or sit as you please. And we will be singing it twice through.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm the Mark part of Mark and Steve. And as this Mark mentioned, when Steve and I learned of our mutual interest in Buddhism and Unitarian Universalism, we've had a lot of conversations. We've also discovered that we're a bit of an odd couple when it comes to approaching our spiritual development. Steve finds the straightforward approach to Buddhism, where the emphasis lies in reducing suffering through simple, mindful practices and personal reflection, most helpful. For me, the magnitude of the Buddhist teachings and the encouragement to question everything has led me in a far-reaching study of dozens and dozens of Eastern and Western philosophers. Both Steve and I have found it fulfilling to integrate Buddhism and Unitarian Universalism. Steve's straightforward approach helps him stay grounded, while the more complex exploration fuels my curiosity. So stay tuned as the two of us continue our conversation and find our own middle way.
This is the hardest part. Traditional Buddhist teaching states, when the Buddha started to wander around India shortly after his enlightenment, he encountered several people who thought him to be a very extraordinary being. They asked him, "Are you a god?" "No," he replied. "Are you a reincarnation of God?" "No," he replied. "Are you a wizard then?" "No." "Well, are you a man?" "No." "So what are you?" they asked, being very perplexed. Buddha simply replied, "I am awake." Buddha means the awakened one. As we light this chalice, let us be open to awakened living, to be mindful and aware of each moment. Unitarian Universalism is a covenantal faith. We will now read together our congregation's covenant. We strive to look for and encourage the best in each other as we move toward presence, peace, and love for both ourselves and the world. And when we fall short, we will seek understanding, reconciliation, and a return to covenant. Let us sing together Spirit of Life, number 123 in the Great Book. Sit or stand as you prefer.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Diana's coming up.
Okay, now we have Lizzie. She's going to come up and tell us a story. Is the mic good for you?
We'll find out. Let's see, can I scooch it or no? Okay.
It's fine.
Good? Okay, perfect. All right, so I've been asked to read just a little story from Buddha at bedtime, bringing some Buddhist concepts into more child-friendly terms. This is called The Brave Little Parrot. Relax. Be very still and listen. Listen carefully to this tale about a little blue parrot who lived high up in the treetops of a tropical forest. One day, he surprised everyone, because despite being only a small bird, he did a very brave thing. What do you think it was? Let's see if we can find out. Now, one morning, a big dark storm cloud climbed high up into the sky above the forest where the little blue parrot lived. The storm cloud was very angry, and he roared and thundered, making a terrible noise. He threw silver bolts of lightning down onto the forest, and one struck an old dead tree which burst into flames. Next, the cloud took a big bold breath and blew the flames, making sparks jump into the surrounding trees, which then caught fire themselves. When the flames reached so high that they were licking at the bottom of the parrot's nest, the parrot had no choice but to fly higher and higher into the air. As the storm growled and the flames grew, the little blue parrot looked down and saw lots of friends, the other animals who lived in the forest, running around confused and frightened. They didn't know where to go find safety. The parrot was worried about them, but stayed calm and tried to think of a way to help. Then it came to him. "Head toward the river," he shouted. "Follow me, I'll show you. This way, my friends." And he flew in the direction of the river to guide them. But not all the animals were able to follow. Some couldn't hear him, and others were trapped by the flames, crying out for help. Suddenly, the little blue parrot had another idea. He flew down to the river and dived into the water, soaking his wings. Then he flew back into the burning forest. When he was high above the flames, he shook his wings, and little droplets of water fell down on the fire with a soft hiss. Back and forth he flew, from the fire to the river, from the river to the fire. Each time he carried feather loads of water and sprinkled it onto the flames. The parrot was concentrating so much on trying to put out the fire that he didn't notice he was being watched. High above in the sky, higher even than the storm clouds, floated a magnificent castle with gleaming spires and towers that shone as brightly as the stars. Watching from the castle were the gods of the happy lands. They shook their heads in disbelief at the parrot's actions. "What is that little blue parrot trying to do?" they asked one another. "Does he think he can put out that great fire with a few droplets of water?" "Fly away and save yourself," the gods cried out to the little blue parrot. But the parrot's heart was so full of love and loyalty for his friends that he ignored the gods' advice and kept flying back and forth to the river as he could. One of the gods could bear it no longer and decided to try to help. In a whoosh, he transformed himself into a great bald eagle and flew toward the burning forest, where the little parrot was zigzagging in and out of the flames. "My little friend, you can't put out this raging fire with just a few drops of water. It's hopeless. Please fly away to safety," he pleaded. "With respect, great eagle," cried the little blue parrot, "can't you see that my friends are in danger? I love my friends, and if I don't try to save them, who will?" He was getting tired now. The smoke from the fire was making him cough, and his eyes were stinging, but he wouldn't give up. The fingers of flame stretched up, trying to scorch his beautiful blue feathers, and his little feet were getting hotter and hotter. "Ouch!" he squawked as he flew higher to escape the flames. But still, he refused to give up. The godly eagle was so moved by the little blue parrot's bravery, determination, and love for his fellow creatures that he began to cry. His silver teardrops rained down, and as they flowed, they streamed into the forest fire, and the poor trapped animals, hiss, 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 went the angry flames, as the eagle's tears of compassion put them out one by one, until finally the fire was completely out. The little parrot couldn't believe it. All the animals were safe. He whooped with joy and turned somersaults in the sky, and the sun couldn't stop laughing as he watched. All the animals cheered, "Hooray, hooray, the brave parrot has saved us. Thank you, thank you." The storm cloud then slunk away over the horizon and left the sun to dry the forest with his warm, glowing smile. The great eagle flew back to his castle in the sky, turned himself into a god once more, and watched fondly as the happy parrot celebrated with his friends in the forest. Who would have thought that such a small bird could be so brave, so determined, and hold so much love in his little heart, he said to himself. He deserves a reward, and I know just the thing. And so the god raised a hand and pointed at the little blue parrot. As all the animals looked on in wonder, a jet of multicolored stars flew down to the small bird, and there was a big puff of smoke. When it cleared, the little bird was no longer blue. His tail feathers now shimmered in all the colors of the rainbow, and he sparkled and glittered under the kindly gaze of the sun. Sometimes we can feel helpless when faced with a great challenge. A wise person knows that love and compassion can give them the courage to achieve things that they thought were impossible. Thank you.
UUCTS's social justice group, the Rainbow Welcome Circle, periodically votes for a nonprofit organization for Give the Plate. April's Give the Plate will be for Pride Month in June, along with 3 other UUs. We raise money for the application of a marching unit, a float, and a tow vehicle in St. Pete's Pride Parade. Extra funds will go towards the Family Day booth in St. Pete's, other June Pride events, and candy and beads for the parade. Make checks out to UUCTS Memo Pride. You may put the check in the Sunday offering, mail them to 57 Reed Street, or donate online by going to uutarpon.org. Special purpose collection envelopes are in the pews for those who want to donate cash during April's Sunday offering.
As we prepare to enter into reflection, I want to share words from American Buddhist teacher Sharon Salzberg. In Sharon's words, there's a beautiful teaching in which the Buddha said, The mind is by nature radiant. It's shining. It's because of visiting forces that we suffer. Sharon went on to say, one of the things I've always found breathtaking in Buddhist teaching is its inclusivity. The Buddha didn't say, some people's minds are radiant, but yours, not so much. He said, everybody's mind is radiant and pure. And the Buddha did not say because of these visiting forces we're bad people. He said because of them we suffer. That's the end of Sharon's words. We'll now observe a moment of silence, during which time I invite you to befriend your radiant mind.
Where's your book, that book?
Be kind to all your friends and family. Be kind to cats and butterflies and trees. Don't hurt the fishes swimming in the sea. Here is what the Buddha says to me. To love is to care for all the living around us. To love is to be kind to all beings around us. To love is to care for all the living around us. To love is to be kind to all beings around us. Be kind to all your friends and family. Be kind to cats and butterflies and trees. Don't hurt the fishes swimming in the sea. Here is what the Buddha says to me. To love is to care for all the living around us. To love is to be kind to all beings around us. To love is to care for all the living around us. To love is to be kind to all beings around us.
All righty, Steve.
Here we go.
I'm glad that we get a chance to continue this conversation, especially among friends. We've had a lot of discussions about the intersection of Buddhism and Unitarian Universalism. I know that your desire was to bring it to people in a straightforward and simple and usable way. As you've probably observed by now, I've seldom met an idea that I couldn't expand virtually without end. From you, I'm attempting to learn the benefit of streamlined clarity.
Well, Mark, that's a scary thought, you learning from me. But streamlined clarity it is, and we'll forge forward. I too am glad to be here with you and with this congregation. And I'm hoping that the time we have on stage will be just the beginning of many ongoing conversations.
I think it's important to establish that this is a double lay-led service. We are laity when it comes to Unitarian Universalism, and we're laity when it comes to Buddhism. If there was any confusion about when you see Steve's serene countenance and his wisdom why he's not wearing robes, he's not really a monk. He's just playing one today. We will be speaking from our own experiences and telling you what we've learned as a result of practice, learning, and being part of spiritual communities. Steve, let's jump off from there. Your experience, what drew you to Buddhism and what has kept your interest?
Well, Mark, first off, I just should mention, aside from robes, there's going to be no Sanskrit, no incense, no bowls that we go around asking people for rice and vegetables, and no talks about reincarnation. It's just plain Buddhism. Well, like so many others, I started out in traditional Christianity, but I fell out of grace, shall we say, maybe at the age of 15, and so I spent about 30 years bouncing back between agnosticism and atheism. And in that time of college and marriage and having 2 boys and working and divorce and everything else, I really didn't spend a lot of time with my spirituality. And then one day I drove by a little UU church, much like this church. It's small, and it was intriguing, and I thought, I'd check that out. So I went in and I found this little church with its 7 principles. It wasn't perfect, but it was very, very comfortable. You know, open dialogue, democratic values, and the 7 principles. It really resonated with me. And what I really enjoyed was that they said, you figure out what you believe in. Oh, I can figure it out myself. It's great, no one's telling me what to believe in. And so I found a good home there, and it was really delightful, and it was enjoyable. And I found that I could go to church on Sunday, listen to the sermon or the experiences, and for a while, that Sunday and maybe on the Monday, everything's good, and I'd have, thoughts about the service. But then as the week went on, it just sort of back into the same routine. And that's when I started feeling, I don't know what it was, like angst or a little bit of uneasiness, if you will. And through reading and through dialogue and conversations with my wife, Mary, I found Buddhism. And it gave me a way to resolve or mitigate this anxiety, this pain, this suffering that I was dealing with. And it gave me a path, if you will, a way in which I could practice. It was work, but it was good work. It felt good. It felt like, yeah, this is working for me, and it's something I could apply on a daily basis throughout the week. And I will have to say that I really believe it's changed my life. So Mark, enough of me. What about your story? I know it's more complicated than mine. How did you get started on this path towards, awareness or enlightenment?
Yeah. For those of you sitting on the edge of your seats, he'll tell more about how his path worked, so we'll get back to that. First off, I'm a lifelong learner, and I've always been attracted to new information. I was actually in Jacksonville, Florida at a community theater when a group of Tibetan monks who were touring doing performances of dance and chanting. And I went, and it was kind of colorful and fascinating, but at the end they asked for questions from the audience. And as people asked questions, they said, this is good, question everything. Question what we say, question everything. And I thought, that stuck with me. Go forward years and years, and I was here at this church where I saw a group of people one evening coming out of the building looking radiant. And I said, what gives? You doing something illegal in there or what? And they said, no, Buddhist meditation, you should join us. And I remember thinking, why do I need a group of people to stare at my navel? But I said, maybe. They said, no, come, because we have a Buddhist monk, and he delivers a Dharma talk. I said, what's a Dharma talk? Well, it's kind of like a sermon. It's the Buddha's wisdom translated and speaking to our times. So I tried it, I went, and I was hooked. I don't know if that snap comes through. I was hooked. The talks were about things like compassion, dependent origination, the three poisons, which you may recognize. The three poisons are greed, hatred, and delusion. And how, if we work, like you mentioned, we can begin to reduce and even perhaps eliminate those poisons in our lives. So that got me going, but what's kept me going is, and I'll use the term the Buddhist world uses, the Sangha. The Sangha refers to the community, the group of people that come together and support each other in learning. It's been uplifting. Okay, Steve, we both said that Buddhism has changed our lives. Can you give us an example?
Well, Mark, I do have a personal experience. I'll have to say, I told this story to Mark when we were talking about our spirituality, and he said, that's powerful. You should include that in our talk. And so it's very personal, but it's also very telling. One of the first steps I took in Buddhism was to practice getting rid of negative thoughts. So I just, as the day would go on, throughout the week, I would just, whenever a negative thought would come into my mind, I'd just chase it away. Not interested, get out of here. And I did that for several weeks, and then I started practicing meditation, which I found to be very helpful and alleviate a lot of my suffering. And that all worked really well, but there was one issue I had which sort of was just, I couldn't get rid of. I'll use the name April as a placeholder for my older sister. And we had a very contentious relationship. It started way back when, Vietnam, I think, when she was a lifer in the Air Force, and I was a long-haired, pot-smoking protester, war protester. And we were very conflicted with that. She felt I had abandoned her, and I felt that she was in part killing off many innocent people. And from there, it just sort of degraded. And so for decades, we've had this contentious relationship, promises not held, rude things said, and really the onus was on both of us. And I couldn't get rid of this. It would be with me, not just when I saw her. Maybe I would see her like, 1/10 of 1% of my time during family gatherings, but it was in my mind afterwards. I'd go on a walk where I would wake up in the morning and I'd be thinking, well, the next time she says that, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to be, that thing that many of you may have experienced. And I just said at some point, I said, I am causing my own suffering. What the heck? So what am I going to do about this? So I made the decision to approach my sister. It was not an easy step because of all these bad habits, but I approached her at a family gathering and I said, April, I'm tired of this. We're getting old. We don't have much time left. Can we find some kind of way to bury the hatchet? And I said, look, I'm very sorry for the pain I've caused you. I really am. And I'm hoping that we can move forward and try to get along. And so that process began. She was rather hesitant, said, well, I guess we can try it. But over time, the next few months, whenever we had a family gathering, I'd purposely sit next to her and engage her in conversation. And I'd call her on the phone and we'd talk. And it would be uncomfortable, but still it was working. And over time, over the next few years, two or 3 years, we got to a point where we could laugh about old times and we could share things. And now I will say that we have a reasonably good relationship. It's not perfect. We're never going to be best buds, but it works. And I think more importantly is that I don't have any more of this internal suffering. I don't have that voice going on in my head telling me about this or that. And I have to believe that both of us have benefited, and I believe that April also is not suffering as much from our relationship. And so I think that Buddhism played a major part in that experience that I had.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing it. I do think it's powerful. I think it's powerful because of the sincerity in it. You don't describe following in a formula or an active listening program. Those things can be constructive. I'm not saying they're not constructive, but I'm saying what happened that I witnessed with you is inside out, that you became aware and reached a sincere place. That's powerful. Okay, Buddhism in a nutshell. I've accepted the challenge to describe in 60 seconds over 25 centuries of Buddhist philosophy and history. Here goes. Buddha was born a man in India about 2,600 years ago. He was a prince named Siddhartha. He grew up in palaces, a life of luxury. When he wandered outside the palace gates, however, he saw old age, sickness, death, disease, poverty, and he questioned what gives. So he began an exploration. He went on a journey of discovery. He lived as an ascetic for more than 6 years, trying to learn from the gurus of his time in India, what's the meaning of life? Eventually, he abandoned that and led a middle way. He nourished himself again back to health and meditated, reached what we call enlightenment, a pure mind free of defilements. For his next 40 years on earth, he spent teaching about suffering and about the alleviation of suffering. It's summed up as what's known as the Four Noble Truths. Truth one, there is suffering. This existence, this plane that we're in, guarantees it. We'll all be sick, we'll all die someday. It's the way of life. Noble truth number two, there is an understanding and a cause of this suffering. Number three is we can alleviate the suffering. And number four, there's a way to do it. One, there's suffering. Two, the cause is attachment and clinging and desire. Three, the way to relieve it is to understand attachment, clinging, and desire and work to free yourself, liberate yourself. And four is what's referred to as the Eightfold Noble Path. Now I'll explain that there's no steadfast rules, but the Buddhist canon, which is often referred to as the Tripitaka, which is 3 baskets of information that gives us a feeling of understanding of ethics, meditation practices, and philosophical insights.
Mark, could I interrupt you here just a second? Mark shared a story with me about a co-worker he had, and that co-worker shared with him that, said, Mark, you're a great presenter, you have a lot to say, and you're knowledgeable, he said, but sometimes, this was your story, that he gets to the threshold and then he kind of goes over the cliff of, it's called hopelessly complicated. So I just think this might, and I think, Kathy, you probably know what So I think maybe if we just kind of, excellent.
Okay, in honor of my colleague, a true story, how about then the KISS principle, because she taught me that.
Perfect.
Keep it simple, sir. Is there a story you can share that illustrates what the Buddha was getting across?
I can, Mark. Yeah. This is from Buddhism, Plain and Simple. Okay. There's an old story about a man who came to see the Buddha because he'd heard that the Buddha was a great teacher. Like all of us, he had some problems in his life, and he thought the Buddha might be able to help him straighten them out. He told the Buddha that he was a farmer. I like farming, he said, but sometimes it doesn't rain, and my crops fail. Last year we nearly starved, and sometimes it rains, and then the yields aren't what I want them to be. The Buddha patiently listened to the man. I'm married too, said the man. She's a good wife. I love her, in fact. But sometimes she nags me too much. And sometimes I get tired of her. The Buddha listened quietly. I have kids, said the man. Good kids too. Sometimes they don't show me enough respect. And he went on and on. And the Buddha said finally, the man went on like this, laying out all his difficulties and worries. Finally, he wound down and waited for the Buddha to say the words that would put everything right for him. Instead, the Buddha said, "I can't help you." "What do you mean?" said the astonished man. "Well, everyone's got problems," said Buddha. "In fact, we all have 84 problems, 83 problems actually, each one of us. 83 problems, and there's nothing you can do about it. If you work really hard, you might get rid of one, but if you get rid of that, another one will pop up in its place. For example, you're going to lose your loved ones eventually, and you're going to die someday. Now there's a problem, and there's nothing that you or I or anyone else can do about it." The man became furious. "I thought you were the great teacher," he shouted. "I thought you could help me. What good is this? What is good is your teaching then?" And Buddha said, "Well, maybe it'll help you with your 84th problem." And the Buddha said, and the man said, "The 84th problem? What's the 84th problem?" And the Buddha replied, "You want to not have any problems." I think the moral of the story, we think we have to deal with our problems in a way that exterminates them, that distorts or denies the reality, but in doing so, we try to make reality into something other than what it actually is.
I love
End
that.
of story.
I love that story. Cool one. Good one. Can you tell us what you do to handle your 84th problem? What do you do to reduce the problem maker in our minds?
Meditation. I love meditation. As I spoke before, and this is just my personal path, I started by chasing away negative thoughts, and this you can do throughout the day. It's just a wonderful exercise. Whenever those negative thoughts come into your mind, you just chase them away. And then after I got good at that, or better at that, then I started getting serious about meditation. So the fundamental part of meditation from a Buddhist standpoint is clearing your mind, not allowing that incessant voice to keep talking to you. My good friend Steve Henke, who's a doctor in Colorado, has said to me more than once, he said that meditation is the best medicine he knows. And I think medically, it's shown that meditation is beneficial. But so for my path, I started slow, maybe doing 2 minutes at a time. And basically, it's about breathing, right? So I start deep in the diaphragm, taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out, right? And I focus on my breath. Now, I can't go for 20 minutes just focusing on my breath. That just doesn't work. So I've embraced some other tools to help me with my meditation. For example, I will count. First of all, I should say that I try and coordinate that with my heartbeat, right? So it's all, and if you sit quietly, you can hear or feel your heart sometimes. And so I coordinate that breathing with my heart. And then I count. So I might say, as I go in, count 1, 2, and as I breathe out, with love and gratitude. And it could be any personal mantra you have, something that with love and hope, whatever. Or you may not want to count. You may want to say, in with love and out with gratitude, whatever works for you. And I count because it allows me to kind of know how long I've been meditating. Otherwise, I'm looking at my watch, it's only been 7 minutes, oh my God, So that way I can just keep track of how much I'm doing. And then the last tool I use is, because I have this attention deficit thing, is I will kind of tap my feet. So it's a complete, my breathing, my heartbeat, tapping my feet, breathe in love, and breathe out gratitude. And it started out 2 minutes at a time, then 5 minutes at a time. And if you can do a 5, you can do 10. If you can do 10, you can do 15. And I was talking to Mark about meditation a while ago, maybe a month ago or so, and I said, "Do you meditate, Mark?" He says, "I tried it," he says, "but I just fall asleep." So Mark, I thought about that. I think when you get up in the morning, you have that coffee and then meditate. But start slow and work your way up, and you might find it beneficial. That's my approach towards meditation, Mark. I know yours is a little more cerebral. Maybe you could share that with us and how that works for you.
Well, since you asked, there's a lot for me, but I'm going to focus on one technique that helps provide me equanimity. And the technique goes by an acronym, RAIN. The R is for recognize, the A is for accept, I for investigate, and N for non-attachment. Michelle McDonald, Insight meditation teacher, introduced this concept. Tara Brock and others have popularized it, and a lot of people find it really helpful, RAIN. For me, the way out of an unwholesome mental state is often not to abandon thinking, but through disciplined mental activity. I find a middle way between overthinking and oversimplifying. For example, the oft-given advice, just let go, doesn't work for me. I end up screaming in my head, well, if I could have let go, I would have let go. Why do you think I'm fussing and it's bothering me? I didn't let go. So telling you that by taking a thoughtful approach, I often reach the point where I can. In the fall of 2023, as a member of the Board of Trustees, I faced controversy when our budget recommendations sparked debate. Accusations flew, causing distrust and detachment within the congregation. I felt disturbed, quite out of balance, and I struggled to stay connected to the people in the congregation, connected to my responsibilities, and connected to myself. Then I remembered and used RAIN. Recognize. I feel hurt and tense. I feel within my being a sense of dis-ease. Accept. I acknowledge these feelings. They are universal. I'm not the first, and it won't be my last experience of feeling tense and upset. It's part of the human condition. Investigate. Well, clearly I can see the part coming out toward me, but now it's time to see the parts going within me, to see how my ego plays into my anxiety, and how my anxiety feeds my desire to disconnect, and how my disconnection, you get it, I saw the inward cycle. And the N, non-attachment, anger arises, stays for a while, and dissipates. Everything comes and goes in its time. And that anger wasn't something that defined me. Anger was, in Sharon Salzberg's word, a visiting force. And that visiting force is going to be here and then dissipate. And I add another N in my RAIN, which is nurture, that self-compassion is an ingredient, and I can offer compassion to myself. So I repeated this a few times. It's not a one and done for me, but I repeated that process of clarity, and I returned to equanimity to a very large degree. I recovered my sense of balance. I reconnected with people, I reconnected with my purpose, and I reconnected with myself. I reached out to several individuals to do what we put on the screen earlier, return to covenant. That's a real thing. And I reached out to people and said, can we talk about trust? Can we work on rebuilding trust? And although similarly, I wouldn't say 100% successful, but it did minimize tensions and relieved a lot of my angst and helped me move forward. It was very powerful for me.
That's cool, Mark. Thank you for that interesting approach towards meditation. I guess that you've seen two different sides to that. I would say that one point to meditation is that clearing the mind and being in the present moment is one of the major goals. And also that everyone can find their own way, and that meditation can be an important but also a fulfilling tool towards finding awareness. We had intended to solicit some questions from the congregation. for this, and we didn't get that done, so I'm just going to pretend that this was a question that was submitted. So, Mark, if I'm content with being a UU, then why should I look into Buddhism, if you know so much?
Okay, first off, the oxymoron, content and UU. If you know any, point them out. But I would say most likely if you are UU, you're engaged in an ongoing search for meaning and looking and exploring. I think Buddhism is a good fit for that because it also encourages inquiry and exploration. Certainly something worth investigating or taking a look at. I think there's no need to give up anything. In fact, I have heard people who are true monks tell people, you don't need to give up your religion. You can adopt Buddhist practices and Buddhist philosophy, and you can integrate this intentional process in your life. So I would encourage people to take a look at it. There's over 500 million, Buddhists across the world. So see what they're all about. Question I'll throw your way.
Is this from the congregation?
Certainly. I can see it on their faces. They're wondering if you can explain this being in the present moment thing.
Yeah, I love the present moment. So, and I'll make it pretty simple. I think we're getting short on time here, but in essence, you have the past, and you have the present, and you have the future. Invariably, we as human beings spend an inordinate amount of time in the past thinking about things that have happened, good things, bad things, or indifferent things. Or we think about the future. I'm so excited about the vacation we're going on. I hope we get a big tax return and blah, blah, blah. And we bounce back and forth between the past and the future. And invariably, we forget to just be in the present moment. So here Mark and I are doing this presentation in this church with this filled with loving souls. And we are definitely in the present moment. And I can tell you that being in that present moment is just a feeling of joy. If you go for a walk and you're thinking about some phone call or business, I got to get back, or I'm thinking about my grocery list or whatever, instead of watching the flowers or the grass or the people that are out there walking around or engaging someone perhaps, you're missing out. You're missing out on this banquet that's set right before you, and you're forgetting to eat because you're so busy bouncing around. And just this morning, I read in the Minneapolis Star and Tribune, recognize that if you don't inhabit the present, you are missing most of life, ricocheting between what's already done and what may or may not happen. Mary and I were working out here in the yard, and a neighbor says, "Oh, you guys are doing such a nice job out here. Would you like to come over, maybe have a cup of some tea and talk about the present moment?" It was just like so spontaneous. So right there, we're not thinking about anything else, and we just had a delightful hour and a half, just chatting about their lives and our lives and what that was all about. That was really present moment, and that's what I gravitate towards. That's what I try and hold on to whenever I can. Mark, you're on.
Yeah, just a word, if you're interested in following up in conversations, either of us would be delighted to talk to you. And I know there's other people in the congregation. Lizzie has background, and thank you for the story, and Bill and others. But I would particularly like to point out Robbie Varner. Robbie, can you raise your hand? Robbie Varner keeps the ongoing email list for the 2 meditation groups that meet here in our church. One meets on Wednesday evening, and it's provided by Buddhist monks from the Dharma Wheel Meditation Society in Clearwater. The other one meets on alternate Mondays, and it's peer-led. We share with each other. Both are very supportive, and both are encouraging. And Robbie would be a great person to talk to. You would have been good up here to kind of share your story with us. So ask Robbie, she'll be happy to tell you. And we appreciate your time.
You got one more thing to say.
I do. Please remember that you alone. Please
I've
remember
worked with you and I've worked with
that. Okay, to tell the truth, he put it in red, right? For me, I'm colorblind. Please remember that you alone decide if you want to take this path of awareness and how you might go about it. We invite you.
To wrap up then, we want to leave you with this. How do any of us become fully alive, fully present, aware, and able to see? In order to experience the answer to this question for yourself, you must come to 3 realizations. 1, you must realize that life is ever-changing and fleeting. Ever-changing. Secondly, you must understand that each of you are already complete, worthy, and whole. And then lastly, you must see that you are your own refuge, your own sanctuary, and your own salvation. You can draw on support from other people, but you are your own sanctuary. And
Thank you. Thank you.
Our final hymn is number 1031 in the Teal hymn book, 1031, Filled with Loving Kindness. May I be filled.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole.
May you be filled.
May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole.
May we be filled.
May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
And then the closing words. This is from James Ishmael Form in Buddhist Voices in Unitarian Universalism. It's a book that Mark shared with me. Vision without action is a dream, while action without vision is a nightmare. My Unitarian Universalist proclivity to be engaged meets my Buddhist practices and perspectives that ground what those actions might best look like. Out of that meeting, that union, I find a whole life, or pretty darn close.
Oh,
We hope you have found meaning in today's service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of peace and love for ourselves and others. May we carry kindness and compassion in our hearts and out into the world. We end with the words of Buddhist teacher, author, and activist Thich Nhat Hanh. Smile, breathe, and go slowly. Each week we set aside time to honor the joys and sorrows of our personal lives with our community. As we gather today, some of us in person and some of us by way of Zoom, we hold a space